All right, howdy everybody. Thank you for joining our Eloqua user group meeting for August. We appreciate y'all taking the time. This meeting is being recorded, so no swear words. We'll try to keep it clean. I've got a couple of folks here with me to present to y'all today, and of course, we'll have time for Q&A in our open forum towards the end of the meeting. So feel free to pop any questions that you have into the Q&A, not the chat. We won't, kick you out of the meeting if you put it in the chat. It happens almost every webinar I go to. It's always like, don't put it in the chat, put your question in the Q&A. Inevitably, I bet today somebody will put a question in the chat. So anyway, it's just easier to keep track of in Zoom. If you haven't led a Zoom webinar before, it's a lot easier to do it in the Q&A. Anyway, so we will be sending you the recording and slides from this meeting, hopefully later today out of our Eloqua instance. So be on the lookout for that. So I'm Karen Pendle, or KP as many people call me. This was last weekend in my backyard with one of my dogs. I don't know what I was doing on my phone. Should have been looking at the trees. But anyway, I've been in the marketing world for the last 15 years, and in those 15 years used Eloqua throughout most of it and consulted on Eloqua the last 11 years. But anyway, I'm here to help basically host this, and I'll be the one doing a quick demo of the Salesforce Integration App for Eloqua, along with Nathan from Oracle to chat more about it. So today what we're going to go through is a couple of quick reminders on things that are relevant to Eloqua users. Or if you're not an Eloqua user yet, hopefully this will give you a good feel of what our community is like, at least virtually. And first thing we're going to go into as far as like content you're probably really interested in is Nathan is going to go through the Eloqua 20C, the latest release out now this month. And actually I should say 20C release highlights and 20D sneak peek. 20D will be out later this year. So there's quarterly releases of Eloqua 4 times a year. If you count how many quarters are in a year, just 4. So anyway, Nathan's going to walk us through that. We're going to do a quick 1-question poll to understand if people are using the Salesforce Integration App or not. If you don't have Salesforce CRM, this won't apply to you right now. However, if you have Oracle Sales Cloud, there is a similar app for that CRM integration already out live. If you have Microsoft Dynamics, there will eventually be a similar app to the Salesforce Integration App one day, probably a couple of years from now, last I heard. So anyway, a bulk of this meeting will be spent on the integration app, the demo of it and some tips directly from Nathan and I. So we've really wanted to make sure we help people that are thinking about migrating to it, because Oracle support will not support it as of February 1, 2021. That doesn't mean the native or the current integration won't work. It's not being sunset. But anyway, we'll dig into that in a couple of minutes. So again, it's being recorded. We'll send you the slides, and please enter your questions in the Q&A, or else we'll boot you out. I'm just kidding. And go to the next slide. It's tricky to PowerPoint. Okay, so some quick reminders. Let me get that video out of the way. So if you didn't know, I just mentioned it, but the 20C release is here. We're going to give you these links, but there is a page all about it that has been put together by the Eloqua product management team at Oracle. They've done a great job with this. Jody Mooney and Nathan and others have worked on that. They always do a sneak peek webinar about it too, which was done I think a few weeks ago. So I recommend following the Eloqua Release Center as well and getting notified via top liners when something new is posted there. That's how I stay up and up on the Eloqua releases. So I would recommend that. I don't have to like proactively go there. You can anytime. I have a bookmark, but anyway, it also can just notify you. That's one cool feature of top liners. You can set up notifications to be sent to you over email when something new is posted in the group that you're following on top liners. So Eloqua's product management team, just want to hit on this. I hit on this almost every meeting. They do webinars that are not just about the releases, but about functionality in Eloqua and sometimes a strategy around Eloqua to help you to get the most out of your Eloqua platform. So I highly recommend those webinars. And then our next Eloqua user group meeting, just like this, will be September 17th. We always do it the third Thursday of the month at 11 Eastern, 3 GMT, 10 Central, something like that, 8 Pacific. So it's early for you Pacificers. What is that, 9 Mountain? Anyway, So we can't do a perfect time for everybody. That's why we've chosen this time, just so if anybody wonders why like it's so early for them or so late for them. It's a global webinar, mostly US and Canada folks end up attending it because it does tend to get later for our European counterparts and especially for those in Asia. So it's nighttime for them. So feel free to register. I did put the registration link into the chat so you can click on it there. Whenever you register for this webinar, we do invite you at least a week before the next one. So keep that in mind if you don't feel like registering today, no pressure. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to Nathan Zimborski. I don't know if I said your last name right, Nathan. I hope I did.
All good.
He's one of the Eloqua product managers at Oracle, and he's going to walk us through the 20C release highlights. So Nathan, with that, I'm going to stop my Zoom screen share so you can take it over.
Yeah, thank you, Corinne. Before we before we go into 20C, just a couple of words about myself. So I've been with Oracle now for almost 2 years. It's my second time I actually come to Oracle. Many years ago started my career as a software engineer working for Sun Microsystems, if you guys still remember this name. But I came I'm product manager, one of the PMs, Eloqua PMs, like a part of the larger team. My specific area of responsibility is CRM integrations in general, CRM integrations apps specifically. So so
Nathan,
yeah,
your line, I can hear you, but it's really jaggedy. It sounds like maybe like your Bluetooth batteries.
Is it better now?
Say a couple more. It's still a little bit broken up.
All right.
It's still broken up.
Let's see what I can do here. Is it better now?
I think it's still broken up. Oh, maybe it's me.
I can hear you.
I'm
okay,
a bit robotic.
Corinne.
Okay, I'll hang up. It must be my Bluetooth. All right, I'll hang up and use my computer audio. Sorry about that. It's me.
No worries. So about 20. So just want to wrap up with that kind of the intro part. CRM integrations. So if you have, I'm happy to share my email address. We have tons of discussions going on about Salesforce app on the top liners these days. As you're probably aware, the plan is to deprecate Salesforce native integration on February 1st. Next year. So I know we've hosted a number of webinars in the past about Salesforce app, about migration path, and you definitely should I encourage to watch some of the recordings, and we'll be hosting these webinars, after 20C release is actually done. 20C release is happening right now. Actually, it's a nice segue. So the main resource for release notes, for release updates, I'll post it in Zoom chat. Is this release center and in Eloqua top liners? So I'll put it right here. So there's a link right at the top of this page. There's an announcement about 20C. So if you wanna unfortunately we don't have time to cover every single feature in the 20C release today. So there are few major features that I want to mention. So we are part of 20C. After 20C rollout, you'll be able to move or add contacts to program on the program canvas directly from the program builder. That's one of the major updates. In addition, there's a video embedding. In 20C, starting 20C, you can embed Vimeo, YouTube video thumbnails in your responsive emails. You're using a new video content cell. There are content blocks enhancements. SSL certificate management is now generally available, and as I mentioned, there are many other features and additions. There's as I mentioned, there's a link right here at the top. If you click on this link, it will take you to a separate page where you can actually watch a 43-minute video of a release around a release briefing where we discuss every single feature in greater details. When it comes to CRM integrations, there are like 3 major highlights that I want to leave you with. We are rebranding the Sales Cloud Integration App is being rebranded. We're going to call it CX Sales. It's following general rebranding effort in Oracle CRM. So it's number 1. When it comes to Microsoft Dynamics integration, there's one major product notice. So starting 20C, if you're using Microsoft Dynamics integration in Eloqua, you'll be able to use to change some settings and start using AOF authentication with Microsoft Dynamics. This change was added following Microsoft announcement that they are going to deprecate, basically going to turn off basic auth in March next year. Hence we are releasing this product update, and between now and 21A February, both methods of authentication will exist in the product. So it will give you enough time to check it out and to make necessarily updates before the old authentication method goes away. There are no other changes to the integration itself. It's only the authentication method. Just want to highlight it there. And finally, the Salesforce Integration App. I'll be covering it in greater details later in this presentation. So there's a number of changes we're making in 20C, and I'll be sharing some plans about it's not plans anymore, they're actually work in progress right now around 20D. What changes you should expect in Salesforce Integration App in the 20D. Just want to mention that our major goal Salesforce Integration App over past few releases has been making sure that so you can successfully migrate from the legacy, from the native integration to the new app. That's the kind of the overarching theme. In terms of schedule, so 20C schedule, so pod 1 and pod 2 have already received a 20C update. So other pods will get updated over a coming weekend, and that includes the cloud apps. So if you're using Salesforce Integration App, let's say on pod 1, you're effectively still running 20B code. So after this weekend, effective Monday, your application will be your Salesforce Integration App or CX Sales Integration App or any other app for this matter will be updated. Corinne, I will hand it back to you now. So maybe we can do like a quick demo,
Yep.
like Salesforce app, and then we will dive into additional details around the Salesforce Integration App.
That sounds good. Really quick, guys, I'm going to launch a poll. It's a 1-question poll. Where is your team in migrating to the Salesforce Integration App? So if you don't have Salesforce CRM, I think it's the first answer, not applicable. So let's take a look. We'll give it 30 seconds for you all to, there's about 60 of you here. So folks, time. Then I'll hop into the demo. My cat was going to take over, but she decided not to. Oh, you guys saw her. All right. So I'm going to end the poll, share the results. So it looks like a little bit under half of you don't use Salesforce CRM. And then next we have, there's about 7 people in process of setting it up now. And then some are planning right after that. Some are live using the app. There's about 5 of you here. That's exciting. So again, just to reiterate, the native integration will still work after February 1st of next year. Not to say you should stay on it. You should go, ideally in a perfect world, be on the latest, greatest functionality for any platform, including Eloqua. But we've had people misunderstand and think, oh my gosh, we have to have everything done by February 1st because our native integration won't work. It just won't work. It's being sunset. No, that's not the case. Thankfully, Oracle is going to have a grace period to be determined how long. But that said, there are benefits to the app for sure. So let me share my screen. This time I'm going to share a different one. Okay, hang on 1 second. Zoom, share screen 3. Okay, so just first things first, I am in the admin area of Eloqua. I'm going to go to integration. Oops, that's not right. Sorry, that's the old way. That's for the native integration. So we say native integration, this is what we mean. Now, the new way will be you'll go to apps because it's a Salesforce integration app, it's the name. And we have a bunch of apps in our Eloqua, so I'll just search for Salesforce. We've got a couple. Oh, oops. And there's the Salesforce Integration App. If I click on it, there's some basic information about it. I'm going to go to the settings to configure it. This is actually where you start to dive into. This is actually opening up the application. And it defaults, oh boy, I'm clicking too much. I'm so excited to present this to you all. So here we go. So it defaults similar to the other integration to a status and reporting screen. It's different. What's cool though is you can see quickly how many records have been imported and then exported and quick numbers on each, created, new in Eloqua, updated, failed, etc. You can look down below, if I scroll a little bit, over a week time frame, how things are going each day. Red is a failure, green is it was created, blue is updated records. So I can go back in time if I need to, take a look. I don't think we can go into the future, but let's try it and see what happens. We can't, yeah, the button's grayed out. That'd be neat. We can predict our integration. No, I'm just kidding, it doesn't make sense. Okay, imports by target into the Eloqua account table. Imports are bringing data, importing it into Eloqua. In the native integration, those were auto syncs. So we've got accounts, contacts, and opportunities. That's what we're importing into in our Eloqua instance from our Salesforce CRM. And then exports, leads mostly in tasks for us. And this is over, I think this one's showing over the last day. So there's some basic information. You can get further. There's a lot more reports to get into. This is just high level. And if we had our Eloqua integrated with other CRMs or like Salesforce Dev and then Salesforce Production, you'd see the different metrics by clicking here on the top right. What you're going to see on the left-hand side is a good walkthrough of the whole app. So you've got actions. Actions are what sends data from Eloqua to Salesforce. You've got imports. These are what pull data in from CRM, Salesforce, into Eloqua. They used to be auto syncs. Actions used to be external calls triggered by internal calls. Kind of funky terminology with the native integration. Marketing activities, as you can see here, these are the activities Eloqua is tracking, like email sends, opens, clicks, form submits, landing page visits, website visits. You don't have to send all of them over to CRM. You can pick and choose. You can send some to leads, send some to contacts, mix it up if you want to, if you use both leads and contacts in Salesforce. So you can look through there. I'm going to go in a little more deeper detail, but I want to give the high level first. Campaigns, there's a couple of different things, as we know, Eloqua can do with Salesforce campaigns. First of all, it can create and update campaigns in Salesforce. So Eloqua pushing campaigns to Salesforce. It can do the opposite. It can pull in campaigns. That would be under the imports. We'd set that up. And then we can also do, I'm sorry, it's right here. It would be under campaign imports. Yeah. Campaign actions would be the creation of a campaign or updating of a campaign. And then response actions have to do with campaign members and updating the campaign members, like their status is the most common thing. So I'm not gonna go into too much detail about the campaigns area. Nathan's got some stuff to share on that, so I don't want to steal his thunder. But what I want to show under actions, and we're gonna get to as many of your questions as possible in the Q&A. I can see they're already coming in, but we want to at least get through the material so we can share this juicy information with you guys. So actions, and for the people that already have the integration app live, sorry, this is gonna be boring for you, but maybe you'll learn something, maybe you won't. So actions are things like create a lead, update a contact, in CRM. Those are the most common things. We also have a custom thing here where we have a custom object in Salesforce that holds our customer satisfaction survey results. So this creates CSAT responses, creating the survey response in Salesforce, and we have it tied to a contact, the person that submitted it. That's for our customers to gauge how well we're doing or not. So if I open up one of these, let's go into the create lead. You have a few options: view reports, you can edit it, you can disable it, you can run it now, and you can copy it or duplicate it, which that comes in handy when you're building out the integration. Now keep in mind, if you already have Salesforce and Eloqua integrated and you are wanting to migrate it to the app, there is a feature that lets you do that en masse. So you don't have to create all this stuff manually for both actions and imports, everything. It's cool. So if I look at the reports, this is just a deeper dive into this specific action, the create lead. And today, what's happened, you can go previous day, you can pick a specific day. There is some feedback from the users. They want, more options with reporting. So hopefully that comes out in a later release. But as you can see yesterday, we have this being triggered from a program canvas. So we have the logic build in a program canvas, like you would with the native integration program builder. We use the program canvas, you have to, with the app in order to do the logic to determine if somebody should be created as a lead or not, or if they should be updated as a lead or update their contact record, or sometimes it's a combination of the things. So we use program canvas to trigger these actions. And as you can see, we've had some successes, some failures. If there's a failure, you may not see that, but it's a light blue. I can click on it and I can see exactly what Salesforce sent back to Eloqua as far as the error message. So sometimes it's, to me, gibberish. I don't understand it. I have to ask somebody on our team. Other times you can get a pretty good idea. In this case, we have dupe blocker in our Salesforce to prevent leads from being created or duplicated. Sorry, not from being created, from being duplicated. So it was basically Salesforce coming back and saying, sorry, but you're trying to create a duplicate record. So don't do that, basically. You can download them, which is pretty cool. So this is very similar to what you'd see for the reports for the other actions in our instance, like updating contacts and updating leads. And I'm going to hide this and go back and then go into editing it. So we can name it whatever we want. So you can name things appropriately, whether you have a dev or if this is for production CRM, to not mix match things. You can trigger your assignment rules. There's a lot of consistency here with the native integration, except for, in our opinion, and feedback we've gotten from users, it's an easier interface, a little slicker to use. And you can see we've got the fields here on the left. These would be the Eloqua fields to choose from. And then the fields on the right, the Salesforce fields. And it says it here, from to Salesforce. So hopefully you don't miss out on some of the common sense stuff that's in the app, because I've tended to do that. I'll go right into picking a field. I'm like, wait, where am I, Eloqua or Salesforce? So you can map the fields. There's some pretty cool stuff you can do if you want to do advanced logic, or if you want to do a static text field, like if we always want to write $1 billion here. Everybody has $1 billion. Every single lead is hot. You can do that. So it would automatically create the lead and put that in their annual revenue. Don't worry, I'm not going to save this. Kristen from our team, Kristen Connell, who's co-hosting here, she would poop her pants and tell me to undo what I'm doing. You could have a static date put in. There's some pretty cool things here. Dynamic date, advanced mode lets you to add in things like dynamically pull in a couple of different fields. I think we may have it for address, we might not. Like for address, line 1, line 2, line 3, you can combine, here we go. You can combine a couple of different Eloqua fields so that it writes over properly to Salesforce. And let's see here. That's about it to highlight here. You can delete a field mapping if you need to. And we want to make sure that Salesforce pushes back to Eloqua, to the right Eloqua contact field lead ID. So that's what this is selecting. You can do the data priority still on each action, action by action. So here we've got it after our bulk API. These are our data priorities. You may not have as many. And then you can test it. So this is pretty cool that you can actually do your test here. It gives you a little bit of insight on how to do that. So I'd love to go deeper into this, but we don't have time to do all that. If I did want to test this, I could pick a record and then save and go back, and it will show up in Salesforce. So if I did save it, I'm not going to save that. I'd mess it up. I'm going to go over to imports. So now think auto syncs, the native integration, these are imports. I like the new terminology. To me, it's more easier to understand. I always got confused when, especially the first year I was trying to do these integrations for clients. Most people don't know like auto sync, external call. Of course, you've learned it, but anyway, an import's more obvious to most people. So we've named these imports. We're pulling in data from Salesforce, contacts, leads, and accounts, and ops. So let's look at the account one. You'll see very similar options here: view reports, edit, run now, disable, duplicate. If we view the reports, it's same experience. This is a nice thing too. It's a very similar experience throughout the app. So you can kind of dig into these things. And there's a lot of expand and collapse that is easy to miss. So just, keep that in mind. Like with these different things here, you can see what's happening. Got a bunch of records come in on yesterday evening. So let me hide this and then back to overview. Now, if I want to edit this auto sync, I can do that. There's a couple more options here than when you would have had on the action, and you can schedule them. I have it for my time zone. I'm in Tennessee now, so I'm Central Time Zone. You can pick a different time zone if you need to. You can have it run every 15 minutes, 60 minutes. If we want to do hours, we can change that like to daily. If we want to do 24 hours. So it's very similar to what you had before, just a little bit different look and feel. There is helper text here that lets you know things that are, well, hopefully helpful. You can choose to not run it on certain days. Like if you didn't want to do it Sundays and Mondays, you could do that. Otherwise, every other day it'll work once a day. If I were to save this now, it'll import records in accounts. And now this is different. This is not my favorite part of the app. I put in the feature request. I think I might have submitted on Topliners or asked. In the native integration, you can do some pick list fields to create a filter of the accounts or contacts release that you want to pull in from CRM. Whatever record type you're pulling in or object, you could pick and choose via pick list fields. Now you have to do SOQL criteria. However, Nathan's going to give us a tip on doing this. You don't have to be an SOQL expert to do it. I thought you did. There's a tip he has on basically, well, there's a need help link here that takes you basically to the Salesforce developer website. But there's also a way to get that code that you need, or the language, not code, and pop it in here if you don't know how to do it from Salesforce. So he'll show us that in our tips section of this webinar. Here again, we're going to just map Fields Unique Ids so that we're importing in Salesforce accounts. If there's updates to existing accounts already in Eloqua's account table, it matches off of Salesforce account ID, which is the unique ID. And this is our field mapping. It's the same options here, oops, as you saw before. And if I just scroll down, again, similar experience: import rules, data priority, import everything. You can choose different things here, import everything like we have, ignore all duplicates and do not import, youngest, oldest, middle child, syndrome, whatever you want to do. Post-processing, this is similar again to native integration. You can add up to account list. You can choose that if you have account list. We chose not to do that for ours. And if you wanted to add them in a new program, it's more common. If I go back for contacts, I'll go really quick to the get contacts or import contacts. And if we scroll down, we could add the action here. There's more options like subscribe these people, unsubscribe them, etc. Add to shared list. So that's a quick overview of, let me just finish up here, the actions and imports. And then I just want to touch on the marketing activities. So if we dive into here, these do automatically run. Think of it on the back end of Eloqua every 15 minutes, like it states there. So once you have these enabled, they're going to start running. I can easily disable it, and we'll see it go down below. It'll be down at the bottom of the list, grayed out and italicized to make it hopefully clear. You'll see you just disable that. I can re-enable it. It's gonna let me know. I'm enabling it in essence. And I think that's about it for here. If I want to edit one, these are pretty cool. So that's just letting me know I'm going to use this for contacts and leads. So I want to have both fields to match off of to make sure I send this activity to the correct lead and or contact in Salesforce. So if I stop that, this is another expand collapse area. It wasn't intuitive for me right away. If I click on that, this is where we created the separate actions to send a landing page activity to a contact in Salesforce and then one to a lead. So if I go here and hit edit, this is what it looks like. Again, you'll see it's a very similar experience throughout the platform. You can pick and choose, like we send ours over as a normal priority, as a completed task in essence in Salesforce. We put Eloqua landing page view. You can type that in. We hand typed it. Type here, blah, 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 blah. And then this is cool. You have some objects for the Eloqua fields that you can plug in that will automatically pull in. In this case, it's a landing page. So we want to make sure the landing page URL is included it's in the description. So your Eloqua field options, you just choose it, you click on it, and then it gives you all these different options. So there's a ton of information, as you can see. This is all of the information that Eloqua has about a landing page activity. So you can choose different things to push. It'll automatically push into that area of the description. If I put it here, it would go in front of Eloqua landing page URL, then it would list the URL. So I could say Eloqua landing page URL, visit on, and then insert field, rid of this one, come here and say activity date, and then it would show the URL to the page and do that. So you can get pretty, custom with these things. I like that a lot, and it applies to all marketing activities. So I think with that, I'm going to just show two more things. The connections, this is where if you want to create another connection, so again, we're just integrated with our production environment. If we had also our Salesforce dev environment, it would be listed here. We could create another connection and go through it. It's a little bit more involved than native integration getting connected to Salesforce. It has a layer of security, like you have to have a key and special handshake. So you get that information from Salesforce. The documentation, the Eloqua Help Center does a really good job. They've improved it. It goes well through how to do the connection. And then last but not least, notifications. I've set up 3. So I've got one that does send me a notification if a lead cannot be created. I call it create lead no worky. I have it set up to send an email to me right away. So Eloqua will proactively notify me right away to go in and fix this. Keep in mind, other marketing automation platforms don't even offer this. It's kind of funky. But anyway, so you can say if it's an import or an action that's having an issue, you can specify. I chose actions, so I can choose from all of our actions. I could say all actions actually and just have it be any of them have an error. And then I want it instantly, hourly, or daily, and then I plugged in my email address. I can add other email addresses as well. I just, like it says there, use a comma between them, and I can do Kristen@sojournsolutions.com or a distribution list. So we both get notified whenever there's an error here. So the other ones, I have a daily one and another hourly, basically. So I did instant, daily, hourly. So a lot is similar. It's a different skin, but it's faster. So I'm going to stop and hand it over to Nathan to share some tips with us. I know we've gotten feedback from people in different areas, pros and cons. So he's going to kind of dive into some tips around things we know people have had some challenges with or weren't understanding perhaps with the way the app is intended to be used. So with that, Nathan, please share some tips with us on the integration app.
Sure, thank you, Corinne. So just time checking, how much time do we have?
We have about 25 minutes.
All right.
We don't want to have time for Q&A, so let's just say 20 minutes.
That's fine. Okay, so I will, first of all, I will address early comment about, how composing so-called query, in the new integration. Of course, I mean, in the old integration, you can, you can select, you can choose the fields as a UI around fields. So while in the new integration, you basically you need to type in the query directly. So it was if you're not, basically, let's put it this way, if you don't feel comfortable typing in Salesforce query language instructions, what you can do, there's a tool available from Salesforce. It calls Salesforce Workbench. Let me share my screen. I'll show it to you. Literally, it'll take 1 minute before we go into additional details. Sharing my screen. I'll put the link in there in the Zoom chat as well, so you'll have it. So basically, you just need to use your Salesforce login name, password to log in, and then you can use this. Okay, so it looks like, okay, so it's some internal configuration related to my account. Let me try a different account. I have two. No. Anyway, bottom line is you can use this. I'll just skip it, and basically you can use this tool to compose a query. It will present a list of Salesforce objects, or present a list of fields available in your Salesforce instance, and you'll be able to just by dragging all these different fields, it will generate the so-called query. You could later basically literally copy paste into integration. The reason why related UI is not available in the app is because when we were designing the app, the feedback that we received, that users need like a speed, like the more convenient way to work with so-called queries, and there's a way to validate your query directly in the app. There's like a play button next to the so-called query field. You can, if you're not sure, and if you put at any time, you can click on that, and it will. And if there's any syntax related error, it will show you right away without actually running an import. So this is a kind of first point. Let me jump back to the actually, I believe I have never shared it. To other features of the app, because we have like a short video that I want to show around campaign membership. I believe that's a topic that that generated some a lot of questions around how campaign members, Salesforce campaign members, can be updated with the new app. Before we go there, as I mentioned earlier, a couple of notes about what's being released in 20C and what you can expect in 20D release in November. As I mentioned, overarching theme is enabling users to migrate from the native integration. So we are adding some of the features to make this migration journey easier and more convenient for users. So first feature on the list is splitting the street field on imports and Eloqua, specifically on Salesforce contact lead and account objects. This feature available in a native integration, and with 20C release, you'll be able to split the Salesforce street field into 3 parts on as well. The next one is you'll be able to map last modified by CRM field on Eloqua contact or account field. we got feedback that this legacy field it's important. We have customers who have business logic tied to the value of this basically to this timestamp that's being used by Salesforce native integration. So before 20C, this field is read-only, so it's not available in mapping. So in 20C, we're going to address it, so you can configure it as a part of the import and make sure that this field. So in Eloqua, you always know when the specific records being contact or account. When was the last time that this record was updated from CRM? Another one is passing blank values on imports to Eloqua. When we originally released the app, we have made decision to fall back to update rules that are available in the core product. If you go to in Eloqua and the settings, field and views, specifically for the contact object, for each field and contact object, you can define a rule. It's basically the default logic, and originally the app was coded to adhere to this logic as defined on the contact contact fields. What we realized, again, feedback that we got, that contact it works great for contact objects, but there's no way to change update rules, let's say, for Eloqua account objects. So we introduced a control in the Salesforce app where you can override, basically you can override these rules and instruct the app to allow blank values to be passed from Salesforce into Eloqua if needed. There are some specific use cases that require that. There's ongoing effort to address stability and reporting improvement, so it's still ongoing. We are releasing a number of updates in the 20D with overarching objective to make sure that all Eloqua apps, not just Salesforce app or CX Sales app, but all cloud apps are basically they are working as expected always. That's our goal. And finally, the email address change. So the email address change feature was originally released as a CA in kind of controlled availability back in 20B. Since back in May, so since this release, we got over 40 customers actually reached out to us, and we enabled this feature for them. I personally got tons of positive feedback about this functionality. So next week it will be generally available. Just a quick note about email address change. I know it generates a lot of interest. I would encourage you, please check the documentation, because email address change relies on Salesforce tracking history of changes, specifically through what's called Salesforce history objects. So you'll need to make sure history objects are enabled in your Salesforce instance. And any changes to email address are actually being tracked by Salesforce. That's a prerequisite for using this feature. Moving on, 20D. So there are a few major features that will be available in 20D. Again, the overarching theme, the overarching objective is very similar, is to help you to move from the native integration to the app. So first one is Canvas tab permissions. Basically, we heard from a number of customers who require more granular permissions on the app Canvas tab, and basically decide who can add or edit this tab on the program campaign canvas. So this is a new permission that will be introduced in the 20D. By default, we still fall back to the current behavior where everyone has access to all steps on the canvas. And so if if you don't care about granular permissions on the canvas tab, that you will not notice any change. So there's no additional configurations of work for you to do when these features are being rolled out. Marketing activities. So in a native integration, when you send subscribe, unsubscribe activities to Salesforce, there's also a way to kind of part of this kind of, you need to configure additional external call, but basically there's a way to subscribe or unsubscribe contacts as a part of and as part of this effort. So starting 20D, you'll be able to do that in the app as well. So it's not just about creating new task in Salesforce, but you'll be able to create a separate marketing activity configuration as a part of the same export in the app, and update subscribe and unsubscribe status in Salesforce. We're going to make improvements to error reporting. We're actually going to go, so today in today's version of the app in 20B and 20C, you can view errors by asset type. You can see how many errors, for example, were generated by specific action or import. We're going to add another view where you'll be able to view errors not just by asset type, but by type, by the error type itself. We define the error type as a combination of the message that you receive, whether or not this error is coming from Salesforce or Eloqua or the app itself. That's the second piece, and finally the error code where applicable. So this is how we define the error type. And again, the goal is to help help you. So if you experience if there's any data type of errors, you'll be able, hopefully with a new error view, you'll be able to understand how many errors of the same type were reported, and if needed, share this information with your sales counterparts in much easier than you can do it today. Enabling users to send blank values to Salesforce. There's specific use cases that we heard from customers that where they required to send blank values. So by default, again, we'll fall back to the current behavior where Eloqua fields blank values are not sent. So we will never overwrite fields in Salesforce with a non-blank value. But if you really need to do that as a part of your workflow, there's a specific use case that require you to do that. There will be a special control on the action edit screen, and you'll be able to instruct the app to pass blank values to Salesforce. There's some minor changes like data mapping changes. So to the mapping Salesforce URL to Eloqua large text. Again, something that one of the comments that came from one of the customers, and something that is supported in the native integration. Visual indicator for hidden connection, it's overall user experience improvement. So if you have multiple connections that, by the way, officially supported in the new app, and you switch to from connection A to connection B, and there is an error, data transfer error, connection A, there's no visual indicator right now. Unless you subscribe for notifications or unless you switch back to connection A. So we'll have some visual notifications there. And finally, the pickless sync. Similar to the native integration, you'll be able to sync pick list values before running actual import. All right, moving on. So there's specific topic, specific area of the Salesforce app where I want to dive in. I know we have only 10 minutes left, so I'll be quick. A frequent question that we get from users: how can I update campaign member status in Salesforce? So in the new app, there are two ways to do that. First of all, so if you're familiar with the native integration, this is probably the way this will be like very intuitive and kind of very clear for you. So basically, you need to map. I'll show you an example. So you need to map Eloqua contact object to Salesforce campaign member. You need to configure IDs. You need to make sure campaign ID is mapped, lead ID or contact ID are mapped as well, and the campaign status, of course. What's different compared to the native integration? You need to manage Salesforce campaign member ID. The reason why it's different from the native integration is because the Salesforce APIs, old Salesforce APIs allow the upsert call. Upsert means that it's like create an update in a single call. With the new APIs, we basically handle update and create calls separately, and because you need to manage campaign member ID and make sure it's included in update call, this method will not work, will not produce desired results when contacts actually can belong to multiple campaigns, right? So a couple of notes. So that's why we have the second option where this issue doesn't exist. In addition to that, I just want to mention that we're currently discussing with the development team to see if what workaround we can come up with and address this API limitation on the Salesforce side, and if and how we can bring this upsert functionality to the application. I know it will alleviate a lot of questions, but unfortunately, it's still we're aware of this issue, but unfortunately, there's no other solution other than using the second approach, which is related to campaign responses. If you configure campaign responses in the Salesforce application, these responses will be reported every 5 minutes. Will be reported 5 minutes after every hour. There's no need to manage campaign member ID, which is of course a huge advantage comparing to the first one. In fact, I would say the second approach is recommended as over the first approach for this very reason. And campaign responses will sync only campaign status. I know I've received a few questions from folks asking, hey, how can sync additional fields, additional values with campaign responses? It's something that we are looking into, but as of today, you can sync only statuses. So I include the link here. I will post it in the Zoom chat later, where with detailed instructions on how campaign responses can be set up and used in the app. There are 4 steps in the process, and we are running out of time. But what I did, I created a short video that shows like steps in the process. 1 second, I need to.
We only have 6 minutes left. I think we will send that.
You know what? Yes, let me share the link to this video. Actually, it's available as a part of Oracle University course. You don't need to have a subscription. By the way, it's a free video. Anyone can access it. Let me share it after the call so you can watch it. So I realized there are 4 there are moving parts in the campaign responses configuration that touch, and these parts they touch not just the app itself but the core product. So that's the actual demo, how kind of a guide how you can do it, how you can start using campaign responses to create and update campaign members from Eloqua into Salesforce.
Okay.
So I will stop here. Maybe we use these minutes to answer questions.
There are a couple of questions in the
Yeah.
Q&A. Let me see here. So if you can take a look at those. One has to do with lookup tables and being able to import into an Eloqua lookup table.
It's on the roadmap. We don't have any timelines yet. The only thing I can say that it's not a part of the 2020D, but it's one of their it's definitely one of their additions that we'll be making in the app. It's not if, it's a question of when.
Okay, very good. That's good news. The next question from Nico, I'll let you read that.
Discussing map contact, so we won't be able to pull back campaign when we add the contact in the campaign. So for update and so create and update calls are basically separate. So you can pull back campaign member ID. This is what you actually need to do if you follow the first approach, right? You need basically when you send a create call, what you need as a part of the same configuration, you need to configure the app to report back, basically to send back the campaign member ID, and you need to store this campaign member ID on Eloqua contact. And when you make the update call, you need to make sure that campaign member ID is included in your configuration. Because if you skip campaign member ID on the update call, the app will generate the error, an error saying that this contact or lead is already a member of the campaign. Basically, the app will try to create a new one, and will realize, hey, it's already there, and generate an error. In order to prevent this error, you need to pass the campaign member ID if you follow the first approach. I hope I answered the question.
All right, and what I'll say is I think the campaigns part is the most confusing part of the app to really wrap your heads around, especially if you've been using the native integration for some time. So that's why Nathan wanted to hit on that. The video that he's going to share will help with it, guys. And like he said, some stuff is on the product roadmap. So for those of you that are feeling some of those pains, they're not necessarily going to solve all the pains right away, but there's some good news that Oracle is aware, which is the first thing, as we know in anything. And then they're addressing some of the campaign pieces. So I know we're just about out of time. We have 3 minutes left. Thank you so much, Nathan. I really appreciate it.
No worries. Just one last note I want to mention, especially around like features like lookup tables that we know that they will not be available in 20D. What I would encourage you to do is to basically to use both integrations, right? Basically to use to configure the app and use it for for everything you need, but specifically for lookup table updates, just keep this part in the native integration. And with 20C release, now you're able to funnel contacts from program builder to program canvas. So if you have like a legacy program builder logic that requires lookup table updates, you can actually use both methods interchangeably until support for lookup tables becomes available.
Okay. And here's the $1 million question for you, Nathan. When will the native integration no longer work? Not Oracle support won't answer phone calls or service requests about it, but when will it be sunsetted?
We don't have any timelines for that. Okay. But what I can assure you that it's like we know exactly where the native integration is enabled. We know who's using that, and we know that there are certain gaps like lookup tables that we need to handle. So basically, once the native integration is deprecated, we'll be reaching out directly to you. If we see that you're still using native integration after February the 1st, we'll definitely will be reaching to you asking why, what's the reason, are there any obstacles or any features or functionality that you might be missing in the product, right? Maybe there's something that we don't know about, right? That's why I encourage you, if you feel that something that you don't know, that you're not sure how to do something, like watch our training videos, or you believe a certain feature functionality is missing in the product, please let me know. We basically, I can assure you, before the native integration will be completely turned off, then there will be another communication about it, right? It's
Okay.
not deprecation, as Corinne, as you mentioned, means that support will not answer related questions.
Okay. That's just to
what
clarify for
that is.
people. Deprecation to me means it's sunsetting and it won't function at all. So it's different terminology, but you're clarifying that Oracle it'll still work, the native integration.
It will still work, yes. It will
Okay.
still work it will still, just sum it up, it will work for foreseeable future.
Yeah.
We don't have any timelines yet on when the Salesforce integration will be disconnected. And for sure, I mean, it
Okay.
will not, I mean, we'll have additional communication about it.
All right. Thank you so much again, Nathan. I'm sorry to cut you off, but we are out of time. We're actually over time.
Okay.
But we've lost a lot of people. So thank you guys very much who are still on the line for attending. Again, next month, September 17th, same time, same place. We'll invite you if you don't register right away, no worries. For the US folks, happy Labor Day. Have a safe holiday coming up in a few weeks here. And I just hope everybody stays safe and healthy and mentally sane through all the craziness in the world. And thank you again for attending, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.